So for the final step, we need to give you the workflow for this course. So you're going to code. Now that will be various things in various classes. Then you'll stage and then you'll commit. And these three things happen in your code space. And then when you push, it pushes your code to GitHub so that you can therefore share it with me or share it with your classmates. Okay, so these steps are all local. This one pushes it. And now let me show you specifically what I mean by that. I'm going to go over to Canvas. Okay, so in Canvas, the write-up for this one is first to do a little bit of setup, just to make sure. And I'm going to look at first the GitHub interface for the repo that I've been working on, which is the private repo. Okay, and so right now I went ahead and started up my code space. Okay, so, and the code space can look very similar. I'm going to clean this up. Sorry about that. I was just doing the last video. Okay, so now, and I could even drop this, right? So that it looks similar. Here's my code space name, right? So then I could, if I remember keyboard shortcuts, if not, I could just go no terminal. Okay, so now I'm in that repo name that I have in my workspace on CodeSpace. Okay, and one thing, and I think by default this is now set up to autosave. So make sure you go into File, scroll down to autosave, and make sure this is selected. Because if not, all the things you're about to do and you push to GitHub, it may not be there, and you go, why? And for some reason, if autosave gets turned off, that could be why. One of our troubleshooting steps. Okay? So the first command I'm going to teach you, and let's go back here, is called get status. Okay, and you do these commands on the command line. So in our code space down here in the terminal, I'm going to do get status. Okay, so get status says, hey, your branch is up to date with the origin and main, and nothing to commit. So here's what this means, is that whatever you are seeing as far as files and code in your code space is the same as what you have over on GitHub. So you haven't done anything to update the content that you have in CodeSpace. Remember, CodeSpace is your own, it's like a copy, a sophisticated copy of what's in your GitHub, and this is where you do your work and then you push it. But right now they're the same. Okay, so when we do that first command, that's what happens. So let's make a change. Let's come down here and put, whatever semester you're taking this course. Okay, so in this case, notice how that the file itself, and this is a tab, right? So this is the Explorer and this is the tab. And so you may have multiple files open over time. So when you're in here, this says modified. So what this means is that GitHub already knew, or Git, sorry, in this case, Git already knew about your file. It's tracking it and it says, hey, we've had a modification on that file. So if I do git status, I'll see that changes not staged. And you're like, what's staging? Well, that's actually the next step that we're going to do. But basically it's saying that you have some things that you've modified, okay, on your files, and you haven't staged it yet. So because Git in this case has a it tracks every single character that's written. Okay, so in this case we have a modification. I just want you to know when you see these different colors of and these are visual hints here to help you. Okay, so we could, and by the way, just know this, we could go through and do all of this workflow right now to push it to GitHub, but we're going to make some additional changes. And the reason is I'm going to teach you a little more about what this interface will look like as you do something fairly common in this course, and that's create a new folder. Okay, so this is create a new file, this is create a new folder, this is the refresh for some reason if you needed it. I think here if you draw, I don't even remember what this one is, so but this is a fairly common one. So if I hit folder here, it's going to create a new folder. So remember, a file versus a folder. Now I want you to call this one git-help. So now we have a new folder, and now this new folder, I should take it a second here, should show up, and it may not, but on yours I suspect it will. Okay, and the reason it may not is I just did this video for the local, and maybe because I created a file, a folder like this, it may not, but on yours I suspect it's green. Okay, and the reason that is that we have, oh, actually, no, it wouldn't, sorry, that's not true, because now we have a folder, but we don't have any content beyond the folder. Now we need to create a file. Okay, so now let's create a file. Having highlighted that Get Help folder, now let's create a file, and let's create a readme.md. Now we should get the green. Okay, now this readme file is in this Get Help folder, and this readme file is in the root of the codespace, or the repo that you have in codespace. And so the difference here is that this is a new file and it is untracked. So now if I do git status, git status. And by the way, you can always, I'll show you another way, just do up arrow here. It's going to say, oh, I have untracked files and I know the folder, but I don't even know the file yet. Okay, but notice there's not even anything in this file. We just created the file itself. We haven't even added anything to it. So I'm going to actually show you what I want you to add to this, and it's going to be over in Canvas, but I just want you to first see the difference on the Git status. And I'm going to use up arrow here on my keyboard to now bring back the commands, because it'll cycle through commands I've done. So if I want to do clear, I can do that. All right, so now back in Canvas, there's a file I want you to click on, and it's called the README file. And this content, just click and drag all the way down and copy that. Now you're going to learn more about Markdown. You may have already, depending on what course you have. But we're going to use this as a way, if you ever want to remember these commands, they are already in your repo and they're there, okay, or in your development environment in this case. So now let's go back to codespace. And so in this README file, in that help, I'm going to paste. Okay. Now in this case, GitHub now has more content that it's tracking, but from the interface perspective, it looks the same. And if I do git status again, it looks the same. Okay, it's just more content that it now is going to track, and now we're going to do the workflow with all this new content. So now under here, we're going to do our next, which is we're going to stage our changes. And there's two ways to do it, but typically this is the one most of the time we use, which says basically any changes I've done, go ahead and add them. If for some reason you come to a situation where you only wanted to add one file, you could do that, but typically it's here. I just want you to know that that is an option as well. So in this case, I'm also in that base folder, so I'm going to do it clear. I'm going to do git add star. And for me, it's Shift 8. So when I do that, I hit enter. I'm going to get a couple things, okay? So I've added I've staged my changes, and if I do up arrow and I do git status, now I see, oh hey, we have changes to commit. So now we have changes that we've staged. Again, nothing is different with what we have on GitHub. It's all in our local, whatever we're using now. Local in this case for you means your code space. So now we do the next command, which is git commit and then -m space quotes and then the message. And I will actually give you a message I want you to use today, and this is a fairly common thing I will do. So git commit -m space open double quotes, and I'm going to say learning git workflow end quote. Now for some reason you hit enter there before you end that quote, it will kind of have a funky interface, and there's ways to troubleshoot that, but you can also just kind of drop the bash and or the terminal and come back in, but there's also more graceful ways. I'm just not going to take the time right now to show you. So when I hit enter, now I see that all my coloring has gone away, and if I do roll up and I do get status, I'm going to say, oh, hey, your branch is ahead. So the branch we're on is main. The branch is ahead, okay, of my origin. And the origin is where it came from, so out here. So that means all those changes, if I hit refresh, is not out here on GitHub. It's only in my local code space. So guess what the last command does, right? Okay, get push will do this for us. So now back to code space. I'm going to clear the terminal again just to make it easier to see. I'm going to drop these files just so it's not there. And so if I do git push, it's pushing all that change out to GitHub. And so now when I go to GitHub, I hit refresh out on GitHub, I see all of that. As a matter of fact, if I look at here's the commit message, and I actually didn't show this in my other video, but this you can actually see is what changed, which makes sense. We created this is the one change we did up in the README file in the base, and this is the README file in the Git help. And what's great about this now, if you ever wanted to look at it like this, you now have this in GitHub whenever you need. If you forget those commands, I tell you, after about a week or two, these will become second nature. We call this muscle memory. Okay? All right, so let's go back here. And the only other thing I wanted to show, okay, so I've done that. We've learned about this. We've done this. Oh, and remember, when you're on CodeSpace, if you're done coding, stop your CodeSpace so it doesn't take your time away. Okay, so let's end this by actually doing that. So coming over here, hitting stop current code space, and so it's stopping it. Now I showed you the other way you could do it as well, but I find, if you remember, if you just stop this tab right now, it will still hang out there for like 30 minutes, eating up your time that is limited on code space. Okay. Now the question might be, can I stop it right now? Can I just, well, I am stopping it, but can I just close the tab? I don't know. I haven't played with it. You could if you want. But if I come over here now, come back to my repo, right, I can see, and this is one way to verify, right, no changes. So this is the other way to see if there is any difference between what's in your code space and what's on GitHub is also in here. Okay, all right, hope this helps you out. And then congrats, you actually set up your development environment, which is a essential step for building new skills and embarking on the journey of this class. Congratulations. Every class will have a next specific thing they'll do to show they did the work. All right, hope this helps you. Please reach out if you need help.